Good evening. We'll now reconvene into open session. We have no reportable action items to report out from closed session, so we'll start. Can I ask for a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Now I'd like to ask if there is a board member that would like to volunteer to read the board norms. Thank you, Dan. Okay, thank you, Kevin. It's a sign.
Okay. You do it. Board norms. The board will come prepared and be fully present and engaged, deliberate effectively and listen openly without interrupting, work collaboratively and strive for consensus, maintain perspective with a sense of humor, not repeat each other or ourselves, not have side conversations, give full attention to the proceedings, no cell phone use, focus on the best interests of all students, commit to no surprises.
I can do it? Okay. Thank you. I already just violated one of the norms, and I was having a sidebar conversation with the superintendent. I apologize. Yeah, that's great. Okay. So now is the time that we're going to ask for, is there public comment on the consent agenda? This is the consent agenda. Okay, no. So now we'll ask for approval of the consent agenda, but we'd like to remove the personnel summary. And Lars, did you want to explain that?
Just there's a procedural error on the summary that
Okay.
I'd like to correct under trustee consideration.
Okay, thank you. So now I'll ask if any other board members wish to remove any item on the consent agenda for consideration as a standalone. No. Okay. Okay, thank you. So now if I could ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda, not including the personnel summary.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. That passed. Okay, now we're on to trustee considerations. First, we have Dr. Stifler, presentation of the Chris Anderson Instructional Leadership Award.
Hi, how are you?
Hello, great, thanks.
Welcome. I'm very happy to be here. This is one of my favorite board meetings of the year where we get to honor a very important and valuable instructional leader, and then invite back Chris Anderson to come visit and chat with us. So the Chris Anderson Award, for those of you that are new, Chris Anderson used to work here for how many years, Chris? Too long. Overseeing curriculum and instruction as the assistant superintendent. She left a clear mark on this district with her work around outcome-based teaching and learning, and really laser focusing us on instructional improvements, which she's still doing. When she retired, they put in place an annual award where a teacher or group of teachers can nominate an educator or a group of educators. So it's a peer-nominated process, and then amongst that group of peer-nominated people, one person or group is selected as the honoree. This year's honoree is Steve Hedelman, which I'm super excited to announce, and I'm just going to read some information on Steve's behalf, which makes me believe that he fully embodies all the aspects of a strong instructional leader. So I have known Steve for 18 years, all 18 years in my district, first as a teacher at Redwood. He's been here, 24 years or so, I believe. But most recently, we started an instructional coaching program 3 years ago, 3 years in the making, and Steve was hired by a peer-nominated and peer-selected panel to be an instructional coach for his particular peer group across all subject areas, and tasked with improving instructional teaching of his peers, also student learning, also with a narrow focus, laser focus on improving closing student achievement gaps and opportunity gaps for our historically marginalized student population. It was a huge undertaking and something that has developed over the past 3 years with different iterations. We met, every 2 weeks as a coaching team. He led one-on-one coaching in confidential, safe settings. He led after-school learning cohorts. He led instructional rounds, classroom observations for the purposes of peers learning from one another. He created safe spaces for teachers to really talk about and reflect on their practice. Specifically, his passions were around teacher clarity, equitable and effective grading practices that really focused on learning, and really finding the zone of proximal development, or the sweet spot for learning, where kids are pushed out of their comfort zone but still taking risks enough to be learning without feeling unsafe. Steve is so effective at his job because he's an expert at relationships and really creates safe learning spaces for both students and adults. He has a positive, can-do attitude. He looks at all issues and people and projects in a way that he sees everything as a possibility. He's always optimistic, and he wants to be part of creating anyone's solution with them, alongside them. He sees all teachers as having potential and leans in to help anyone in need. Steve's also fun to be around. He doesn't take himself too seriously. He's the first one to crack a joke, laugh at others, laugh at himself in a positive way, and that also creates the safe environment where people feel comfortable learning. Steve can also capitalize on everyone's strengths around them and uses that to support all. He's highly respected by his peers. His knowledge and understanding of his practice are so effective, and the rapport that he has, that we've heard time and time again from his peers, that he has been the best professional development they've ever had in their entire career, and this is coming from veterans, upwards of 25 years of experience over and over again. To highlight a couple things that Steve's peers have said in staff surveys. One teacher said, "He helped me most with my unit structure. Now all kids know where they stand, where they've been, and where they're going, and it both anchors them in the moment and provides momentum to move in the most productive direction." Another one said, "I've thoroughly enjoyed and become a better teacher due to Steve's observations in my classes. He's taken an outsider's point of view, strictly as an observer. He's held no judgment about how I teach, except for the desire to improve in the areas I asked him to observe." Another peer said, "I had a great time working with Steve and would highly recommend it to other colleagues experiencing small or large struggles. It was outstanding." And another teacher said, "The things I happened to be seeking help on were minor shifts in assignments and classroom culture. Steve did everything I needed him to do, and he helped me as much as I needed, as much as was possible, and I'm very grateful for this help. It has been the most meaningful and most time and cost-effective professional development I've had in my 18 years of teaching, and probably ever." Additionally, what was also impressive about working with Steve is that he fully embraced his own learning and continuous growth as an educator by attending multiple conferences, and specifically around instructional practice, also equity and race and culturally responsive teaching. He's also humble. At one point he said, "I think I've learned the most of anyone. Through my role as a coach, I feel that I've learned the most from them." Unfortunately, we're unable to convince Steve to apply for a coaching role next year, but he has no doubt offered and imprinted an everlasting impact on our system and our program, and I have thoroughly enjoyed working with him over the past 3 years, and for that I am 18 years. For that I'm profoundly grateful, and it is very clear that he embodies all the characteristics of an effective instructional leader. So, thank you to Steve. Chris, do you have anything you would like to say?
First of all, I want to say congratulations to Steve. And after all your words, you sort of said what needed to be said. But I think I have a couple things to say. One is that I've known Steve since he first came to the district many years ago, and I had the pleasure of working in the instructional design professional development with Steve, among many other excellent, exciting people. But I always noticed about Steve that he had this inquiring mind and a willingness to hear and consider different ideas, and being willing to take a risk to try things and be vulnerable in a group of peers. And that's pretty tough when you're a teacher, putting your work out there. And we did a lot of critique, didn't we?
We did.
All the way around. And so I just really admired that, and I learned so much I learned so much from working with Steve and his colleagues in that setting. I think I was thinking about this name of his position, this instructional coach, and it seems appropriate tonight because we have lots of other coaches here as well. And I thought, what is a coach? And I thought, what does a coach do? And going back to what Kim said, I heard things like inspire, nurture, teach, prod, maybe when necessary, strategize, looking at the situation and trying to figure out how to help people steer them in the path that we all want to take together. And so I really think that Steve, as you were described, has all those characteristics. And then finally, I just think I want to say thank you to the board for continuing to have this award. It means a lot to me personally, but I think it also is really important to recognize that there's leadership in all levels of the organization. And sometimes it's people taking visible leadership roles out in the community. Sometimes it's kind of quietly behind the scenes or in one-to-one relationships with other people. And it's this recognition that is really important to see all of those types of leadership. So thank you for your continued support for this recognition, and I hope I get to keep coming.
So as part of the award, Steve gets a couple of letters. One is a $3,000 honorarium to be used to improve teaching and learning in whatever capacity you see fit. Here is a plaque for you, and then we have your name engraved on this that we'll keep here in the district office, not your house. We're gonna take it out of your house.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Want to say anything?
Well, I just want to say one of my children was lucky enough to have Steve, and I knew he was good. I didn't know why he was so good, so it was rewarding to hear that tonight, all of the elements that go into that teaching. I think it's impressive to get the award from your peers because teachers can be some of the harshest critics about what worthwhile professional development is. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Congratulations. I can't really add anything other than what's already been said, but similar to Cynthia, I always heard about Steve, and I didn't have any children that went to Redwood, so that tells you something. For me, too, not being an educator, I'm learning every day, and today hearing all those traits about you was really a pleasure. And congratulations. Thank you.
And as a board member, as a parent with a daughter in your class, thank you. So hearing great things all the time.
Okay, I think we'll move on to the next. Thank you, Superintendent. Do we have any public comment? As Lars skillfully sits down. Real subtle there. Yeah. Okay, thank you. We'll move on, and we'll now go to honor and recognize 2018-2019 Outstanding Athletes and Coaches of the Year. Lars Christensen.
Good evening, President Lundgren, Superintendent Topier, Governing Board. It is my pleasure to introduce to you our new, we haven't done this in official capacity, even though he's held a position now for the bulk of this school year. Chris McCune is our district-wide athletic director. He's here this evening on a couple of different missions. One, though, is to first introduce our three athletic directors at our three comprehensive high schools. Chris has taken over the unenviable task of replacing a legend, Ms. Sue Collini, who's here this evening. But Chris serves as our district athletic director, and I would like to introduce Chris, who in turn will introduce the three ADs. Chris, if you would.
It's an honor to be here, and it's an honor to be able to present our winners of these amazing awards. Unfortunately, due to some senior awards nights at some of the campuses, we do not have the students here tonight, so I would definitely want to honor them for their success. The 2018-19 Marin Athletic Foundation Outstanding Student Athletes. Now, these athletes are selected by their schools based on the following criteria. athletic involvement, leadership, scholarship, school community involvement, and deportment. The following winners from Tam High School are Lauren Ross, soccer and track and field athlete; Connor King, water polo and swimming athlete. At Drake High School, we have Brooke Simon, track and field athlete; Gabe Leary, baseball and basketball. And from Redwood High School, we have Amanda Morse, soccer and lacrosse, and Liam Anderson, cross country and track and field. Now, who we do have tonight, we do have our athletic directors as well as our Coach of the Year winners. Our first person I'm going to bring up is Nate Severin. He is the athletic director at Drake High School, and he has to run back to do the senior award, so we want to make sure he gets there on time. I do want to say just a nice thing for Nate. This will be Nate's last appearance here because he has accepted a new position as an assistant principal at Del Mar. And he's done a fantastic job at Drake High School for the last 4 years, and definitely wanted to make a point of saying that. So, Nate, come on up.
Thank you, Chris. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having us. So, it's my honor and privilege to present this year's 2018-19 Coach of the Year Award to our boys volleyball coach, Liz Stoner. She's sitting right over here. Wave your hand. I'll call you up in a bit. So Liz exemplifies what it means to be a high school coach. Her positive attitude, competitiveness, and detail-oriented coaching style lends itself naturally to the high school athletics world. She develops positive and meaningful relationships with her athletes, which allows her to get the most out of each and every one of her players. She is detail-oriented in her practice plans, purpose, and in-game strategies, and models all of the elements of our athletics vision, which includes leadership, communication, integrity, and teamwork. What impressed me the most about Coach Liz is her ability to recognize when things aren't going well, to be able to reflect on it, and then immediately implement steps for change. Last year, during an early season league game, she recognized our athletes demonstrating poor body language, making excuses, and not supporting themselves or each other. The very next practice, she designed and implemented a mental toughness program that started with athletes pre-assessing their own areas of mental strength and weaknesses. Liz made it a point through daily lessons, continued self-monitoring, and end-of-season statistics that athletes could make themselves better players by practicing the mental component to the game. Our athletes changed. They set new expectations for themselves about what behavior is acceptable and unacceptable, and began to purposely use their new mental toughness skills for each and every game. What Liz did was so impressive that I asked her to present her plan to our coaches at our preseason coaches meetings. Without hesitation, she said yes. She developed a presentation that was easy to follow, including why she did what she did, what steps she took, and how she did it. Every single coach saw this presentation throughout this last year. Liz is a true example of a model coach. She not only cares about what her athletes and the program, but the athletics program as a whole. Some of her players had this to say about Liz. We love Liz. She helped us not even just learn volleyball skills, but shape character as well! Exclamation point. Liz was by far the best and most fun coach I ever had. She knows how to make practices fun, but also very helpful and informative in preparing for games. For these reasons and many more, I can't think of anyone more deserving and more qualified to be a model ambassador for this award. Please congratulate Liz Stoner, Drake's 2018-19 Coach of the Year. I don't think she doesn't want to say anything.
All right.
Can she work with the trustees?
All right, next up we'll bring Jessica Paish. She's the Redwood Athletic Director and has been in the district for 10 years.
Good evening. This coach has been involved with this sport for almost 3 decades in our community. A graduate of Redwood, he began his coaching career at the Frostoff level at Redwood in 1987. He returned to Redwood 4 years ago to lead our varsity program. In his first year as the varsity head coach in 2015, the Giants won the MCAL championship and the Division II NCS championship. They tamed the number 1 ranking in Northern California, number 4 in California, and number 21 in the nation. In 2018, he was inducted in the Marin County Hall of Fame, and most recently, on May 7th, 2019, this coach accomplished 450 wins in his coaching career. We are thankful for his countless hours preparing his field for practices and games. I don't know if you guys have been by Moody Field, but it's definitely the best field in the county. He also is generous and also extends his to other campuses in our districts, and he is able to find time to help them maintain their softball and baseball fields as well. So Mike Frenzy is the Redwood Coach of the Year.
All right, now I'd like to bring up our senior athletic director, Christina Amorosa, who's been with the district as an athletic director for 11 years.
Wow, senior. All right, good evening. I'm going to go a little off cue and bring up my coach so that you can see what he looks like and gets the attention off me. So Nathan Bernstein, please come up here. He's got great Hawks gear. All right, come on. Right there. Yeah, show off that Hawks gear. All right, so Coach Bernstein is completing his 4th season with the Tam High baseball program. From the day he came on board, he set out to rebrand and promote Hawks baseball, focusing on a specific mission and vision statement and the mentality that would be Hawks baseball. He brought in 5 core principles that was expected of all coaches and players to demonstrate and promote. These core principles include character, accountability, attitude, selflessness, and mental toughness. As thoughtfully said by one of his players, Coach Bernstein set a great example for everyone throughout the season this year. Besides the sport, he preached to us the importance of integrity and your actions on and off the field. Tam High School has been fortunate to not only have Coach Bernstein as our head varsity baseball coach, but as a teacher as well. In an era where we see near extinct teacher coaches, he has jumped into Tam High and embraced all aspects of Tam High, including teacher, coach, and additionally as one of our leadership teachers. His ability to relate, mentor, and challenge students comes natural, and many students gravitate towards his leadership style. Most recently, our Hawks won the regular season MCAL baseball title, a pennant that Tam has not won outright for over 20 years. Baseball has always been strong in Marin County, and Tam has consistently been a contender for MCAL and NCS postseason appearances. However, what I believe to be most impactful by Nathan is the relationships he builds with students and his commitment to making Tam High School proud for what it has accomplished and the potential of what we are capable of. It is with great pleasure that I officially recognize Nathan Bernstein as Tam High's Coach of the Year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any public comment? Okay, well, thank you and congratulations. Now I'd like to ask Tara Topier to go to the podium to honor and recognize parent leaders.
I'm going to do it from here because I think our principals are going to start. So
Okay.
It's always an honor to be able to formally recognize our parent partners. Rely so much on all of the support that you give us. So it's with heartfelt gratitude that we thank you tonight. So I'm going to ask David Luongo to come up first and honor his parent volunteers from San Andreas.
Hey everybody. So David Luongo, Principal, San Andreas. As many of you know, San Andreas is built on the foundation of caring and meaningful relationships. And so the parents that I want to take a few moments to recognize have reciprocated that through their efforts to support our parent events, our student events, and then just being part of our school community as well. The parents also love their children immensely, and that love has helped create an even stronger school at San Andreas. So it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know Sheena and her family. Oceana's right here snacking on, I'm not sure what she's snacking on. And Ziggy, just raise your hand, Ziggy. Ziggy's also been a prominent feature at San Andreas as well. So we appreciate both of you being around, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. So I'd like to just take a moment to say thank you to Sheena. Sheena's been really involved over the last couple of years. It's been a pleasure getting to know you and your family. And I also wanted to recognize they're not here right now, Rachel and Maggie Ellis. So thank you very much.
Dr. Stifler from Tamalpais High School.
Hello. So as a first-year principal at Tamalpais, it has been pivotal to have the involvement and support from my parent community, mainly in three broad bucket areas. Of course, as things are always new, this is the first year that we actually had to change venues for our graduation ceremony for the first time in like 25 years. So I pulled together a group of parents, and these three, Lori, Nicola, and Christine, are continuing to be my rock in terms of helping organize our new ceremony on Tamalpais High School campus. So thank you for the continued work there. Peter and Ed, those two have been critical with the foundation and my parent advisory group to really lend voice around money and anchoring our spending on what is important and valued at Tamalpais. And then Kimberly has been really specifically helpful with organized parents and food around our all-student assemblies to bring in that social element to it. So I think all of these parents, I don't know if I see any of them here though, that's why I didn't see them. They're not here. I will thank them another way.
David Sondheim from Redwood.
So I would like to start by thanking our site council parent reps, Emily Janowski, Jennifer Lefferts, Cindy Serrano, and Christy Smith. Are any of them here? I just want to thank them, even though they're not here, for their participation in our site council, which is our cross-stakeholder group, parents, students, staff, all coming together to help share their thoughts, their observations, and give us insights and suggestions. And they have been fantastic, excuse me, doing all of those, and we are grateful to them. Courtney Finnegan is the president of our Benchwarmers. Courtney here. Which supports our athletics at Redwood and has done a tremendous job in her first year as being our Benchwarmer president. First year, second year? First year, okay. Tracy Van Hooser is not here, right, Connie? Tracy, there we go. Our vice president of our PTSA, and Connie's a lot. If you guys could come up, I would like to present to you. Our PTSA does staff appreciation, campus beautification, and parent education. And Tracy is vice president, and Connie is president. You guys have been fantastic. And you guys might have met Karen before. Karen Lobica is a dynamo. Karen is a true leader. She makes sure things get done. She inspires, she motivates. She knows when to stand up and not back down, and she knows when to be flexible. She is really a principal's dream, and I would argue a district's dream of what a foundation president is. She looks out ultimately for what's best for all our kids. And for that, we are incredibly grateful for all your work. And she'll be doing it for 10 more years, so I'm in a really good place. And she also received a Golden Bell last week for her community and her work on Measure J. So give her a hand there. And the last person I get to recognize is an institution at Redwood High School. I would argue she's just an institution. Sue, come on up. I could spend days actually talking about all the things that Sue's done, but she's here primarily this time for me to thank her for all the work she's done on Redwood tours. Many people, the first time they come and experience something at Redwood, they are seeing Sue lead the tour around Redwood, which we did how many this year? 22 tours of around 75 people each. And she does it willingly. I never had to twist your arm, which I appreciate. And I thank you tremendously for all of the positive spirit that you put into all of our parents and students as they came to Redwood. And then we hopefully continued it from there. But they started positive and hopefully ended positive, and that started with you. So thank you.
So, as was previously stated, we have had some senior award night conflicts with this board meeting, unfortunately. So, I get the honor of acknowledging I'm going to start with Tam High. And I know some people are here, but not everybody. So, I'll start with the PTSA president, Grace Morton. Is Grace here? Well, as we know, PTSAs are vitally important. If you go to TAM and go into the main office, they are never without food. I mean, if you're ever hungry, go by the TAM High main office. PTSA has put out, and it's not like little candy bars. They have food. It's a buffet. You'll be well fed. Go see them. So thank you. Executive Vice President for the PTSA, Beth Cherry, and PTSA Hospitality, Stephanie Young. PTSA Financial Secretary Whitney Bartwick, and PTSA Parent Services Kendra Pollock, and PTSA Secretary and Measure J Emily Yulhorn. So. And then we also have the Tam High Foundation. Now, I know some of you are here. I see you. So I would also like to just take a moment to thank all of the foundations. The foundation presidents have graciously met with Corbett and me throughout the year. Twice a month, I think we've met. And it's just been amazing that they've given us their time and energy to come meet with us and really partner with us around some of the financial situations facing the district. So a heartfelt thank you. Executive Director of the Tam High Foundation is Elaine Wilkinson. I have no idea which one is yours.
We can talk it out later.
I'm just going to give you a
Yeah, she wants to sit down.
Thanks, Tara.
Oh, there's Tara. Tara?
Yeah.
Look behind you.
Oh, JC's here. Well, I'm in the middle of doing this. Hi, come on up. Hi. I just introduced Elaine, so you get to start with Ethan. And I will go through these and sort them for you.
Excuse my tardiness. Good evening, board. I'm J.C. Farr, principal of Tamalpais High School, and it gives me a great honor to be here tonight to celebrate our parent volunteers. It looks like we've already done PTSA. All right. And I had prepared a long speech for Elaine Wilkinson, but it sounds like she's already received her award. So then give it up for her again, huh? So next then we have our chair of the Tam High Foundation, Mr. Ethan Moeller. Our fifth administrator, Deborah Goldman, who's the THF parent campaign person. Our president of the TAM Boosters, Mr. Sean Norton. Our our Vice President of the TAM Boosters, Mr. Don Reed. TAM Tours, Leslie Wachtel. Who else did that? Our PTSA Secretary and Measure J, Emily Yulhorn. That's it. So I just want to say that, Tam High is a very, very active school, and I could not do this without all of you and the work that you have put in. Who am I missing? Sue? You didn't make the cut this year. I think you have another year. I think you have another year to go. But I want to acknowledge all of you. We could not do this without you and all the work and the hours that you put in. Sue, Ethan, Deb, Elaine. I'm just incredibly grateful for their collaboration and everything that you do on behalf of our students and staff. And so I am eternally grateful. Thank you.
Okay, so for Sir Francis Drake High School, we have the Drake Fund. So Drake is organized a little differently. So I know I see Heidi Weller here. So I'm going to announce them, and if you're here, come on up. I don't know all of them. So Drake High Fund Board, Laura Barber, Megan Chartered, I'm not sure if I said that right, Michelle Fox, Aggie Favarallo, is that how you say that? Danielle Fogel, Liz Hargis, Carolyn Horton, Marla Murphy, Tammy Parr, Krista Poston-Dern, Chandra Ramirez, Anna Simpson, Ellen Torrey, Heidi Weller, and Shannon Wolford. Thank you for all of your work at Drake High School.
This is my last moment here, right?
Oh no, don't go, don't go. So this is Heidi, sure, I'm just gonna go through and I'm just gonna keep you here all night, Heidi, and just looking for you. Oh, I'm gonna give you just one.
I'll just take one.
Thank you so much for doing this. Those are all of our parent volunteer recognition. So again, thank you to all of our parents, those who, pull weeds on Saturday morning and serve us food and coffee day after, open house, and just all of those who show up for us over and over. Thank you so much for everything you do.
Yeah, thank you.
I think I'm next. I'm also the next one.
Okay. Any public comment before we move on to the next item? Thank you.
Thank you again. You make our jobs easier. You're ambassadors in the community. You pitch in. You help this district deliver the fabulous education that it does across 5 campuses. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, Tara, we'll go on to the next agenda item.
So what we have before you are memorandums of understanding between the TAM district and our foundations, as well as TAM High Athletic Boosters. When we knew that we were facing a significant financial shortfall this year, the foundations and boosters came forward truly with, open minds, open hearts, and said, how can we help? What can we do? And as I referenced, Corbett and I met with groups of the leadership from the Tam High Foundation, Redwood Foundation, Drake Fund, and just sort of went over the budget over and over again, went over ways that they could provide support. And what you have before you is the fruit of all of that effort, and no small amount of fundraising on the part of these parent organizations to help us continue to provide athletic trainers for our athletes, to backfill some of our BACR, and to just to really make sure that we can continue to be the district that we are moving forward. So we ask that the board accept these MOUs.
Before I ask for a motion, are there any questions any board members like to ask Dr. Topier?
Yeah. Sorry, this also, instructional coaching is also part of what they're helping us cover. And graduation ceremonies.
Okay.
You know, everything.
Everything. Okay, if there's no questions or clarifications, I'll ask for a motion. Can I ask for a motion to?
So moved.
Yeah, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And now we'll have a 15-minute reception.
Can I just say, I want to say thank you, since, I've been thanking everyone, but this is really important, what the foundations did and the boosters, particularly on the athletic trainers. Having been on another board for 13 years, usually the board has to, or the superintendent suggests maybe shifting some of the costs to the foundations and the boosters, and these sprung right, they came forward with the volunteering to help cover the very important position of trainers for the next year. And we know it's a crucial role, and we know we're privileged to have it, and it's important to keep it going. So again, you made our jobs easier in what was a difficult time. So thank you to everyone that was involved.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So I think we have some refreshments, and we'll adjourn for about 15 minutes or take a recess for 15 minutes, and we'll be back. So the next up is the annual athletic report for 2018-19, and we have Chris McCune. That's okay. It's like a B or something, or
Those kids. All right. So the 2018-19 season was a pretty nice year for athletics this year. Started off a little rough. As you recall, we had the fires and had a lot of struggles rescheduling and starting the season. But thanks to our wonderful athletic directors who were able to work with the coaches and parents and students to calm them down and find ways to reschedule and keep things going, we were able to finish our season. We ended up with 2,872 student athletes this year, which is up from previous years. Kind of seeing at all three sites as enrollments are obviously going up. We're getting a lot more student athletes trying out, and we're thankful that a lot of our coaches are also are taking a few more athletes than they normally would. So they're increasing some of our team sizes, which I think has helped to keep kids continuing to play. But obviously it limits playing time and that sort of stuff, but kind of the cost, I think, of growth. We had a successful season across the board as far as the district goes. We had 38 total MCAL championships. That's ranging from freshman level athletics to JV athletics to varsity athletics. We had 3 North Coast section championships, 4 North Coast section second place finishes, and 1, the Drake boys cross country team finished second in the state, which is a pretty amazing accomplishment. With that, they're led by, we had 22 Marin County Athletic League Players of the Year, which is really mind-blowing when you put it into perspective. That's a lot of fantastic athletes. A lot of this is done from the great coaches that we have, as well as our phenomenal athletic directors and all their hard work. And another very important group, which is our athletic trainers. So I'd like to bring up Amric. And Amric's from UCSF. And it's
First of all, thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to speak in front of you. Thank you to the community. Thank you for staying. All right. Not too much fun here, but at the end of every year, we like to present our statistics to you guys. So I believe you guys may have our Play Safe Athletic Training Injury Report. So the first graph we kind of show, or the first chart we show you is just injuries by sites, and then we lead into Gender, broken down by injuries, and season total number of injuries. And I kind of wait till you guys pull those up here. And that, and then to the left, it starts off from 2009, 2010, when I originally started at Redwood, and it goes all the way down to this year. The bottom numbers from Redwood, Drake, and Tam are currently what we've seen from the beginning of football season in August all up until beginning of our middle of May. So that's our statistics from broken down by body part or injuries or sites. And if you scroll up, it'll take us to a different chart there, which is broken down by gender throughout the years. So what you see here is the total number of injuries broken down by male and female. And extra is we include our staff. Sometimes we'll have teachers come in or other community members come in. We also service them too as well. And then to the right, you see season total number of injuries broken down by fall, winter, and spring. And that's we kind of just show you how the injuries are kind of broken down by those seasons. And then next, if you want to scroll up, this is broken down by sport. Obviously, the trends we always see is football is always injury heavy due to the nature of the sport. But exclude those and everything is pretty solid throughout the years. And if we scroll up from that chart, that'll take us into the top chart shows us total number of injuries through the years, and the bottom was just total amount of treatments. So Chris McCune alluded to that. We have combined throughout the district 2,000 and something like that. Yeah. So the bottom right corner is we treated 2,148 student athletes. So we had the ability to have contact and provide services to 2,148 student athletes, was something that we're very proud of. So they came in to get an ice bag, to talk about injuries, to do treatment, to get consultation about further medical issues. So that's something that we kind of always present to the board, that those opportunities are something we take advantage of, and want to show you guys that these students see our services, and they're very appreciative of it, and we're happy that the community sees that too as well, and is willing to move forward with our services. I don't think that these next charts are on your agenda there, but I was able to just take the numbers there and turn them into kind of graphs. But they just kind of exemplify, or at least show the numbers into a different graph and so forth. But other than that, thank you guys, and if you have any questions, let us know. Questions?
Are you seeing any trends as far as injuries, concussions, students paying more attention to directives from the trainer? Any trends?
No. We started to pay a little bit more attention because in 2016, the Marin County grand jury put out the report. So we were compliant with everything that they reported, but we realized we just wanted to make sure that we were being a little bit more aggressive in seeing the numbers. And from that point, 2016 till now, the numbers have been consistent, not because we're more aware of it or we're more educated on it, but we just want to make sure that we're still on top of it and kind of show those numbers. And those numbers now are being in a database at the Marin Concussion Center. So at the end of the year, we transfer those numbers to that place, and then they have that stored because that was required by the Marin grand jury. As far as injuries, we see a lot, and this has been trending throughout the years, ankles, knees, and that's because at this level, when they become freshmen, this is the first time they're starting to do athletics 5 days a week, 2 hours a day, including their schoolwork, including their extracurricular activities. So a lot of training is being implemented. So that's been consistent, which we're happy about, which we also do more of in the beginning as far as ankle prevention, knee prevention, stretching, strength conditioning stuff. And I know a lot of our schools have taken more initiative to have strength conditioning coaches, or at least strength conditioning attendant, somebody in the weight room, to be more present and do more of those conditional stuff.
One of the papers, school papers I read recently, I don't know if it was Redwood's, I think talked about an athlete coming back too soon from an ACL tear, and then tearing it again. Are you sensing anything from I guess, parents pushing their kids or athletes pushing themselves outside of what's healthy?
Yes and no in that sense. A lot of it's from the media. You see a lot of professional athletes coming back from an ACL tear within a year, like 9 months. And we try to manage the students' expectations and the parents' expectations, because obviously that's the professional athletes, that's their job. So in order for them to get paid, they need to get, back to the field of play as soon as possible. So we do feel that pressure, but I feel like we're accustomed to it, and with our research and what we know, we tend to manage expectations a lot better. Even though they say, hey, we're feeling a lot of questions about Kevin Durant right now and whether he's going to come back and all these other things, but it's more managing. So whenever a student athlete gets hurt, and they're like, well, Kevin Durant's going to be this and that. Well, that's a different story. I mean, he's going to get paid over the summer, and you're just going to be playing summer league ball. So we got to understand, academics, and understand those kind of things. So if we can manage those expectations and give them a goal, short term and long term, that'll be better for the parents and for the student athletes. All right.
Any other questions? Yes.
I don't know if this would be you or not, but I'm just curious, are these numbers of you coming to athletes, or with any sport, or athletes coming to you? Are there any sports, like, say, football? I know a lot of my friends won't claim they have a concussion when they, obviously do. Do you guys are these seeked out, or is it all students coming to you?
Well, it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think with the education that we're providing on our front and through the educational front, concussions are something that everyone's being open about. And what we try to come off as, we're not here to take you out of the sport, we're trying to keep you in it, right? So if we discuss these signs and symptoms of whatever head injury you're experiencing, it could be not a concussion.
Okay.
We have a lot of student athletes that come to us and say, I have this, this, and this, and then go see a doctor, and the doctor says, it's just allergies or something like that. So there's a lot of things that they get afraid to speak about. But knowing that there's, on the educational front, the counselors, the teachers are willing to step up and say, hey, you may want to see the student athlete, it helps a lot, because then it allows us to have a conversation. Not to say, hey, you have a concussion, you're out for the blah, blah, blah. It's more like, hey, this is what we can work with, and you're still part of the team. You're still going to be on the field. We just have to manage all this stuff.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you.
And actually, that question made me think of another one. Before we did have the awareness that we do now about concussions, I think people that were probably on the ground were seeing it and thinking there was something coming down the pike, something was wrong. Is there anything that you're concerned about now, any sort of injury that you think maybe is something we should be more concerned about as a school district for student athletes?
To be honest, not really. We're just happy that students are continuing to be active. Continually, our facilities have been wonderful. Our schools have been super open to, to more sports and more activities for the student athletes. So, the more active you get, the better we all feel. I don't see a trend of something coming down and affecting us on the ground level. But
that's good to hear.
And listen, yeah.
Good.
So,
well, thank you for everything.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Back to Chris.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, thank you, Chris. Okay, so next agenda item is discuss approval of Marin General Hospital Certified Athletic Trainer Services Agreement. Lars Christensen.
So in keeping with this evening's athletic theme for at least a portion of the board agenda, we've seen and heard that athletic training services are integral to our comprehensive interscholastic athletic programs. We went through a competitive bidding process earlier this year. We had 3 bids for services for athletic trainers. We have settled on Marin General Hospital pending board approval. You have the contract in your board packet. Really want to, I'm not sure if they've stayed, doesn't look like it, but really want to acknowledge, and Dr. Topia mentioned earlier, that we're able to provide these services through the generosity of our foundations, our campus foundations. So would like that to certainly be on record that we are more than appreciative of their assistance as we face our fiscal challenges, but still feel like training services are something that's part and parcel to a successful athletic program. And per Chris, our 3 schools, you'd be hard-pressed to find another 3 schools in a like school district that experience more athletic success than we do. And that's all part of the comprehensive educational process, so really proud of that. But to the agenda item itself, I respectfully request that you approve the athletic trainer contract. It's single year with Marin General Hospital.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Board members or the student trustee that's here? You're pulling the microphone closer to your mouth.
For moving.
Okay, thank you. So in that case, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the Marin General Hospital Certified Athletic Trainer Services Agreement.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Lars. That passed.
Thank you very much.
And I guess you're staying there because the next one is discussion for approval of the TAM adult school compensation increase.
I am. As you are aware, recently the governing board approved a salary increase for our certificated teachers, the Tamalpais Federation of Teachers. As you know, we also run an adult school. Our adult school director, Ms. Jamie Nash, is requesting a like compensation increase for adult school teachers. Per your background information in your agenda packets, adult education is funded separate and apart from the general fund. These folks are not TFT members. They're paid by the hour. They're at-will employees, essentially. But we do our best to pay a competitive wage because their services are very, very important, again, to the comprehensive nature of our school district and the services we provide. So per the information provided by Ms. Nash, respectfully request that you approve the compensation increase for the Tamalpais adult school teachers.
Any questions, comments? Nope. Okay. Can I ask then for a motion? Thank you. Do we have any public comments on this item? You want to look again?
I was going to say.
That was quite a okay. Make sure you looked everywhere.
Somebody was sneaking up behind.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I'll just say the information was very clear and it was helpful to have it spelled out.
Yeah, the packet had it all with the table. Can I ask for approval of the TAM adult school compensation increase?
A motion?
Yes.
Yeah, so moved.
Oh, sorry.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. That passed.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Boy, it's only 10 to 7. It feels like it's 9 o'clock.
It's not the company though, right?
No, but I'm just suddenly.
I'll try and be quicker next time.
No, I just was thinking how I'm getting that feeling. I'm sorry. I'm just, yeah.
No pressure, Wes.
No, you know how it gets when we get tired. Okay, Wes Cedros, an update on Wellness Center services and evaluation data in the ETR process.
Thank you. Yeah, so I hope you're ready for my hour and a half presentation on. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And in fact, I'm going to be inviting Dr. Kelly Whitaker and also Jessica Colvin, our wellness director, up here to actually do the bulk of the presentation. I would just preface it with a little bit of history about ETR's involvement and what WISH is, because we have 3 new board members present who didn't witness that evolution. And so ETR is Evaluation, Training, and Research, and they've been a partner with us since really very, very close to the very beginning, because ETR was a leader in evaluation with the San Francisco Unified School District's wellness program. So we went to them for advice. It was also nice that one of their principals, researchers, is a parent in the district, Dr. John Shields. John has since stepped back and moved on to other projects, and so we got the expertise of Kelly taking us forward this year. And as kind of, I would say, kind of a prerequisite for wellness moving forward, the board was very clear in their desire to have a comprehensive plan for evaluation as we went forward. And so the plan has always been, as we build the program out, spend 3 or 4 years gathering usage and satisfaction data, basically. And once we get wellness up and running, so to speak, and each school is in various stages of that. I would say Redwood and Drake are very much established. This was the first full year for TAM. We would move into an evaluation that also included more outcomes based data, such as grades, discipline referrals, attendance, the effect on attendance, and other mental health outcomes and health outcomes. So ETR has provided us thus far with kind of 2 strands, I guess, of support. One is the evaluation, and also they are the developer of the WISH system, which is the Wellness Integrated Services Hub, and it's basically our student information system for wellness services. So that integrates with our student information system, eSchool, to pull all of the demographic data. It's a one-way pipeline, so we take the information from eSchool, populate it into WISH, and then our staff and our providers use WISH to document services. And there are various levels of accessibility, viewability for our providers. So our wellness coordinators and administrators can see all the services and students that are in WISH. And then our school counselors can see all of the services being provided to the students on their caseload. And then further down are our individual service providers, who see only the services that they are entering into WISH for the students that they see. And that way we can keep it both HIPAA and FERPA compliant. And also that allows us at the wellness coordinator level to coordinate those services to make sure that we are serving kids to the best of our ability and the information is flowing to those who need it. It also collects the data that's used by ETR, and Kelly will go more into the process, but so the data is identifying information is removed, but we can see various measures and trends in the data, like referral, like reason for referral, which is very important, demographic data, which student populations are using what services or what services they are not availing themselves of, and et cetera. And that's how we pull a lot of the data from the evaluation. So that's like the quick version of what ETR does for us. They also provide training, technical support. Jessica and Kelly have a conversation every week, and they've also come and trained our staff and our community partners how to use the WISH system. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kelly.
I'm just going to be here to answer questions and to kind of provide color to the data that you're seeing. So Kelly will present the data, and then if you have questions, I'll be right there and I can answer, because I know a little bit about this, so I know a lot about the programs that are behind the data. So it's not just numbers.
Does this work for going forward?
That should work.
There's a timer, volume on. Yep, it's on. Yeah, great.
And is it all right with you if board members ask you questions throughout the presentation? So everyone, if you see something, just...
And we have this.
Yeah, we've seen the slides. Sometimes you'll say something that's not in the slides, and it sparks a question. So,
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
I will just say a little bit about myself, that I am, I'm sort of new and old to ETR. I worked at ETR evaluating the San Francisco school-based health centers for about 6 years before I went and got my PhD, and then I did a postdoc at the University of Washington, where then I became the evaluator of the Seattle school-based health centers, and now I'm back at ETR and working here with Tamalpais, as well as San Francisco Unified, and working with a few other districts as well. So I'm really interested in how evaluations of school-based health centers, and as Wes mentioned, we have been focusing mostly on process evaluation, but using this new WISH system to gather data, and it gives us an opportunity to do more outcome-based studies later, especially given that the data around student information is connected to service use data. This is something that I've spent years trying to do on my own. And so the fact that we're finally sort of getting to the place where this kind of data can live together and talk to each other is exciting stuff. So we won't get into any of that exciting outcome data yet, but as you can see, the evaluation has progressed from just doing a needs assessment of what is needed at Redwood in 2014-15 school year, on to needs assessments and focus groups, some that were provided by UC Berkeley. Then the 16-17 school year was the first year that there was a small WISH pilot. You'll see that there's some data in here from that. And then the 17-18 school year was the first year that WISH, the full sort of internet version of WISH was launched, WISH 2.0, with all providers. So you're seeing data that's from the 17-18 school year, not this last school year. So as we're talking about last school year, it might just get a little confusing. So you heard a little bit about the WISH data system, and here's it's funny, the font comes up a little bit different, but here's a list of some of the core functionality pieces of the WISH system. So given that it's both HIPAA and FERPA compliant, is one of the reasons that these data are allowed to be connected, which is really exciting work, and it takes a long time to get to that point with a lot of lawyers, a lot of talking. And it allows a wide range of services at the individual student level to be documented. By pulling in the student name, we can say this student was served, and that allows the misspellings of names not to happen, and the actual student record is connected with the student's name.
What's the process for getting the data? You said somebody will come along and say, the director will create whatever the record for that person.
Whoever the service provider is, if it's a nurse or if it's a wellness coordinator seeing the student or if it's a therapist, they will put the information in. I saw this kid, these are the services they received, but the demographic information is coming from your school district system.
Any service for 10 minutes or longer. So students that drop in for tea do not get counted. These are for longer check-ins or therapeutic sessions.
You need to use the microphone only because you're being recorded.
Okay, do you have one? You'll stand up. Okay. So it also allows coordination of services among providers. It allows information to be shared across the school community. So administrators can also see that a student was served. You don't necessarily see the details of all the different things that maybe happened in a session, but you will see that this student was served on these dates and a little bit of information if it was a group or direct services. And it also allows for process and evaluation.
So can you remind me, the FERPA, that's the actual educational side of the data?
The education data, and HIPAA protects the health data.
Okay, thank you. So you just made me, so if our wellness program were to refer a child, or let's say the student went on their own to a health provider, a standalone health provider in the community, and that health provider wanted to access got permission and wanted to access the records here, is there a way to extract just the health data and keep, okay.
Yes, there is a way to do that. I'm not sure how often it happens, but mostly the service record request is happening for mostly parents, I think, requesting.
Okay.
That's what happens in other districts.
Okay,
anyways.
okay, thank you.
Okay. So sorry for the things kind of look a little different, but these are the 4 different modules that are available in WISH. So first is direct student services, so that's any one-on-one kind of service. Group services are anything that is a group of students meeting together. Student-focused meetings are something where you may have different adults involved, so you may have a parent or you may have other staff in the school, so it's a way to document multiple individuals more at the adult level. You could have several students in there as well. And then school-wide activities are activities that are not identifiable to a student because the whole school gets it, or is a presentation to a classroom. These are places where different kind of trainings are included, or a school-wide event or a presentation from the youth related to health. These kind of things go in this area. So the data now that we're going to talk about is data that's in WISH. This is not necessarily representative of all of the students in your district, but these are the students that are in the WISH system in that school year based on these 2 high schools. So Drake, all the data that we're talking about, it's about half of its Drake data and half of its Redwood High School data. And the demographic makeup of these students in this particular system, it was 64% were female who were receiving services and 36% were male. You can see mostly 67% were white, 19% Latina, 6% Asian, 2% Black or African American. The AIAN Hawaiian, that's Alaska Native and Hawaiian, and then there's a small percentage, 3%, who declined to state. That they declined to state in your student information system. And so the evaluation includes several different activities, and so I'm going to just talk about Redwood and Drake data from the WISH system. And here you can see for the 17-18 school year, there were 3,700 direct services provided to 688 unduplicated students. So that's the 362 at Redwood and 326 at Drake. And that's 218,000 minutes of direct services to students and 2,372 individual counseling sessions. And so the types of services that students received were largely individual counseling. You'll see that's the majority of services there by a lot. And then you can see these smaller categories are things like checking in, sensitive services, parent consultation, case management, school-based provider consultation, substance abuse counseling, etc.
And so that's out of the 600 plus?
Yep.
Okay.
That's out of the
634, whatever
Yep.
it was. Something.
So one of the ways that WISH collects data is based on the services received rather than the individual student. So that's why you'll see duplicated counts throughout some of this, which I'll point to. Because students can receive more than one service.
Okay, probably later, but you have slides talking about groups of students, so that would be a different statistic.
Right.
Okay.
Yep, it comes out of a different place. So this comes from the direct student. These are all direct student services first. So if we look more closely at the individual counseling, which was about 64% of students who received services, these were the main presenting issues that came up. So these are similar to other schools as well. Depression, anxiety are high. Because we're in school, we're going to see a lot of educational issues, social issues, family issues, a small percentage of substance use, and then a larger category of other emotional issues, which include things which have a small number, but altogether it makes a big whole. So that's general emotional support, which is sort of a generic catch-all category. Anger and aggression, body image, grief and loss, self-harm, and suicidal ideation go into this category. Any questions? No? Okay, so you also just see that the number of students served has gone up, I wouldn't say somewhat dramatically, but the 15-16 school year was more just a year of pilot data and service logs that were given to us that we then entered into the system to get some of this data. So the 16-17 year was a it was Wish 1.0, and then this 17-18 year was Wish 2.0, so the numbers are going up. And that was the total number of unique unduplicated students served. And then the total number of direct student services has also gone up in the last 3 years. And it's a 56% increase from 16 to 15, 16 to 16, 17, and then a 31% increase from 2016, 17 to 17, 18. And
so
then,
that includes the effect of adding a campus?
no,
Which,
because
this
these
is
are
normal.
all the two schools.
Okay, okay.
This is more instances with basically the number of students didn't change that much from 16, 17, 17, 18, more frequently there.
I think it's more just about the way data was collected, and people may be getting more used to the system, and entering more students the more comfortable they get.
I was just going to mention that this has been a big undertaking for our providers. A lot of them have to already capture data for their organizations, so we're working really hard to get them to complete the data, and Kelly sends us a log every month to see if the number of students they're seeing is being reflected in WISH, but I think we'll continue to see that number increase because I don't think we're at 100% compliance.
So now I'm going to move into the group data. Oh, this is just the service minutes. This is actually I think something that wasn't collected in some of the earlier WISH versions or the hand data that we were given.
Of the 634, I mean, that's what I keep going back to, is the total direct service minutes, but that pertains to of the 600-plus students. Okay.
Exactly. Over a whole school year.
Over a whole, okay.
So I guess as a board member, what's hard, and maybe you can speak to this too, Jessica, is because if we look at this, it looks like, okay, it's almost tripled, right? The access to services. And so if some of it's in collection, like what is our real 0 year to start with, where we can start looking at what services are being used, what trends are developing, what should be some things that we're concerned about, what level should we fund it at, all the decisions we have to make based on data.
I would say that I don't know that we're at baseline with data yet.
Okay.
We're getting there.
Okay.
And so I think if we get to everyone using the data system to document everything that they're doing, then we'll have a better sense of what these numbers mean. Right now, this is showing that by you having a data system that people are learning to use, you're getting more data. And so in order to be able to say what is needed or how much service should a person get or what's the average, we don't have that information for this district yet.
Is it that they don't know how to use the system, or they're just not using the system?
That's a good question. I mean, we've done different, we haven't done any of that kind of evaluation yet in this district.
What do you think it is?
I think it takes people a while to get used to using a data system. Some people are going to use, there's accountability maybe for a different type of system that's for the agency that they work for. It could be that they don't feel comfortable using it in the moment, and so then they're tracking it in some other way and then entering it later. Once this becomes also sharing the data back to providers more often is a way for them to see oh, this matters, and then they can start analyzing the things that they see and things that matter to them. But it can be a long process. For some districts, it can take a while for people to feel like they get the data and they know what it's for.
And to understand the data now, so in terms of where we are, so if it's just under 700 students, that's 688, and then 218,000 minutes, that's essentially a little over 300 minutes per student, and so call it 5 hours. Is that what you think about in terms of the sort of right level, in terms of treatment, in terms of on average?
So, I mean,
I was just going to say, we only, oh no, that's not true. That's for the satisfaction surveys. I was going to say a couple of things. One, the only numbers, baseline numbers that I can think of to talk about are BACR numbers before wellness came in. And they were somewhere between about 130 students to 160 students, I believe, per site. So that was before wellness came in and brought in additional providers and additional services and a drop-in center. And then I was going to say that it really depends on, I wish it's a requirement of the job that all of our wellness staff enter data. I can tell you that our wellness outreach specialists, we have 3. One of them is amazing, and one of them is just not good at it. And we've put it in her evaluation, and she's probably missing 100 students. It doesn't matter for coordination of care because all of those students are in a separate place if they've dropped in, so that we make sure we're coordinating care. But we're just getting to a place where people are agreeing to spend the last 20 minutes of their day to enter data. So I've created these little sheets where I'm like, just write it down, hand write it. I know you don't have time to get on your computer, hand write it, and at the end of the day, or once a week, or once a month, enter your data. The same thing happened in San Francisco. I had like one wellness outreach specialist who, recorded everything, and then our numbers dropped by like 200 students, and it was the person wasn't entering the data. So we're just getting to a place, and we had all new staff at TAM this year, we had new staff at Drake this year, so teaching them to enter the data. I don't know that we'll ever get to 100% compliance, but we're getting there slowly.
Great. So also just thinking, if you theoretically, what level of treatment are you thinking should be at some point you then sort of get to outsource and sort of beyond wellness here?
Right.
And so is the 5 hour, like on average, is that sort of, do you think 5 hours, 10 hours, where do you think that would be if all the data were correct?
That's a great question. We do short-term counseling, so we never do more than 6 to 12 sessions, and if we do, there has to be extenuating circumstances. So we're a short-term counseling model, and we're really teaching our staff to case manage at the beginning so that we're not taking on cases where students could receive services in the community.
I mean, those numbers, the special number of how many kids should be getting services is definitely something that the field doesn't have that number right now. Even trying to figure out the MTSS triangle, where you have the 5% at the top and the 15% in the middle who are at risk, and then you have the 80% at the bottom. That if you think about that as who's receiving services at the group level, which would be that middle level, you would expect maybe about 50% of your population. And then at the 5%, you would expect maybe that 5% of your student population. But because students are getting all different kinds of services, not just those levels, it's hard to kind of know what the best number is or what the right number is. And also, I think as school-based health centers are around longer, you also will see that there'll be times when a lot more students are using services. I think San Francisco's up to 50-something% of the district, and it's around 40% in Seattle. So as people, it also is how educators become comfortable sending kids there, that parents feel good about it, that students in their own schools feel like this is the place that I want to go for help on a variety of things. It takes a while to get to that place, but so there's not a magic number. The answer there. I've been doing this work for a while, and we're still trying to figure it out. And because these kind of systems help us do that, because we then have access to the whole student body, and you can look at these trends a little bit better.
Something else just to note is that this does not include any of our nursing services. We don't put in nursing or health specialist services, and we don't put in school counselor or school psychologist information either. So we are providing quite a bit more services than are even here, because these are just wellness specific.
Okay, so now we're just going to move into the data about group services. And here's just a list of a variety of different groups that are happening at Drake and Redwood. And so far there's been more than 150 sessions of group services involving more than 150 students.
And I just wanted to mention that a lot of these groups are actually provided by our community partners. So like Queens on the Rise, and then we don't have it up there, but Young Defenders is offered by a Marin City community-based organization. The Inside Circle group is offered by Inside Circle. So these are partnerships that offer free services on our campuses, and they're often the ones who run groups. A lot of like the SPAR Center, the LGBT, I don't even think it's up there, but the LGBTQ group we have, that community organization can provide groups on campus. They can't provide one-to-one.
So this is sort of the majority of what we'll talk about related to groups, except for that now we'll move into the student surveys. So there were, during the school year, 4 different surveys that happened. One was student satisfaction surveys at Drake and Redwood, and you can see there the number of students that participated. And the way we determine which students who will take the survey are based on, we get a list of all the students who had services and then randomly choose around 100 kids who had 3 or more services. So kids who had 1 or 2 services are filtered out, and we just look at students who had 3 or more services.
So the 206 out of that 600 and something, those are the ones that had 3 or more?
Well, there may be more than that, but it's a sample.
Oh, so this
And
is
we
just a
randomly
sample.
choose
Okay.
just a
Oh, you
small
chose, okay.
sample of
I
those
missed that
kids.
part. Okay, thank you.
And then the Student Leadership Development Group is for students who are in a peer resources group, or what's the other one?
The Wellness Youth Council.
The Wellness Youth Council. And then there was just one staff satisfaction survey at TAM only, and that was 8 staff that were student support staff. So we'll talk about each of them. So first we'll talk about the individual student surveys. So this question asked them how they first ended up at the Wellness Center. And we found that 66% of students were self-referred to wellness or were referred by a friend. So that's an interesting idea about this is the sort of the main way that students are reporting that they're getting into services. And then a smaller number, 20%, are through teachers or staff members.
And I just want to say, this is probably what I'm most proud of.
Yeah,
This
I think
is what I'm
so,
most proud of, because
Yeah.
before wellness came, students didn't really know there were therapists on campus. It was all adult to adult. So like students, you could go to your school counselor and ask for help, but we weren't promoting therapists on campus. Students didn't know exactly where to go if they needed something in particular. So the fact that we have that many students coming in themselves is really significant.
Yeah.
And that's what we were trying to create.
And in terms of health insurance, we asked about what kinds of health insurance students had. And we learned that despite the fact that most students have private health insurance, they reported, about 45% reported that they wouldn't have received any of these services had they not had a wellness center at their school. So this is definitely something that school-based health centers across the country are known for, improving access to health and mental health services. And then in terms of what students thought about the services that they received, all the numbers that we've seen through this district are very high to begin with. So you'll see that 93% felt happy with the services that they received, and that number has gone up in the last year. In terms of feeling respected by the people at the wellness center that they meet with, 97% felt that they were respected by people in the wellness centers, and that has increased 12% since last year, since the previous year as well. And then finally, in terms of student safety, the proportion of students who reported they feel safe in the wellness center has also increased to 93%, up 8% from the previous year. So next, we will move into the survey for students participating in leadership development groups. There were just 71 of them. And so these are questions about youth development and how their experience working at the wellness centers made them feel more informed about teen health issues, and 90% feel more informed about the health and wellness of teens, which is great because they're then the ones that are sharing information with their peers about health information. They feel more connected to school as a result of working with the wellness center.
And just to clarify, these are students that are not our clients. These are students that apply to be part of our Wellness Youth Council or that are in peer resource, and we're actually going into peer resource 1 to 2 times a week to teach wellness topics.
And they would also recommend, 99% of them would recommend working with wellness to their peers. So a great opportunity for leadership at school. So as we move into the group survey, this was 28 students at Redwood only. And students overwhelmingly felt satisfied with the services that they're receiving at the Wellness Center. That's 96% there. In terms of the group leader, treating them with respect, again, that's a 96%. And then students who would recommend this group to other students who had the similar needs, this was, again, 100% of students felt they would definitely recommend the group that they went to other students like them, like themselves. And then quickly, the staff survey at TAM High School, just 8 people completed. They were all student services staff and administrators, and very high numbers here in terms of feeling like their school's overall focus on student health and well-being. They all agreed that. The staff also felt they've had more classroom presentations and school-wide events on health and wellness since wellness has been there. They've also seen an increase in student self-referrals, which we already see that's a really high number, and they've seen the availability of student groups expand on campus. So the next section is about student outreach events. So we'll see if this one will come up. Great. So these are what would be considered more tier 1 kind of services that are presentations to classrooms or parents and families, to teachers and staff, or the overall school community. And based on the data that was entered into WISH, there were 114 presentations during the 17-18 school year, and they were asked to track how many participants came or were part of this, and the number there is 8,721 participants. We don't have any individual identifiers here, so it's just estimates of who the intended audiences were or who came to the events. But then just a little bit of, I'm just going to give a few different examples of some of the types of presentations. So related to classroom presentations, you can see here there's Wellness 101, suicide prevention, sexual health, marijuana use prevention, youth development, stress management, affirmative consent, and just say no. These are the school-wide events. So these are types of events that are happening for the entire school. See that there? More than 25 school-wide events reaching thousands of students. And then a little sample of what the teacher and education outreach events were. And these are things about staff self-care, also learning about what is wellness, restorative practices, teen stress and anxiety, sexual harassment, marijuana use prevention, and affirmative consent. So, and these are the types of events that were offered in 17-18 for parents and caregivers. Teens, similar things for the same, different crowds: affirmative consent, teen stress and anxiety, talking with your teen about sex and dating, an angst film panel, and marijuana in the teen brain. So we could have any discussion or questions. These are some of the goals and things that we came up with as well in terms of next steps. That you'll see that as we sort of were looking at how data has increased, this is about sort of the tiered rollout of the WISH system, and adding more data into the system gives us more data to work with. And we did, if you just looked at the demographic slide that we showed sort of at the beginning, more female students are being served than male students. So that's one area of outreach or utilization that could be changed. And given that there's such a high satisfaction on all of the surveys, what do we do next is, I guess, an open question. In terms of evaluation.
So, and I don't know if this is to you or more to Dr. Topier or Wes, but so I'm concerned that people are not entering data into the system. And I understand that happened in San Francisco, it may have happened in Seattle, but those are large unified school districts. We're a smaller district. So what can we do to make sure that we're operating with the most accurate information, particularly if we're going to be looking at outcomes assessment? We can't be looking at outcomes assessment if we know people aren't entering data into the base or into the database. And we saw that when we had to make budget cuts, counseling was on the chopping block, or parts of it. That was very important to our community. There's been a lot in the community. Various stakeholders say, well, do we really need wellness centers? I think this establishes that it's a very important service for the students, but we absolutely have to have accurate data in order to make funding decisions. So how do we ensure compliance with what the expectation is to enter data into the database that's then supporting the wellness centers? I would think that people that are entering the data would have a vested interest in doing that because it directly supports the job that they're doing. So how do we up compliance?
I think that is something that I would have to speak to Wes about, making sure that that expectation is built into not just job description, but making sure at the beginning of the year, when in like the pre-evaluation meetings that we have with all of our employees, that that's part of the very clear expectation.
Well, and why?
Yeah. Yeah.
You go ahead first, then I have a question.
Yeah, just the little bit I'd add to that. That's very true. It's in our MOUs now that we sign with the community providers. BACR on the whole is pretty good about entering their data. They've been with us since the beginning, and they are also being paid for their services. Kind of a wild card, I guess, is that a lot of the service providers that we have are not being paid for providing those services, and therefore the leverage, it's really the leverage is limited as far as holding that over them, and so it's really about staying on message. And Jessica has been after everybody. We run 3 sessions at the beginning of every year where we train our wellness providers on various things having to do with being in schools and doing that, as well as utilizing the WISH system. And so that is emphasized, and I think it's on us to just be a broken record about that message of recording the data. I think it's also a little bit of a kind of a feedback loop as WISH becomes more established in the schools and more widely used. We're hoping that it becomes more the professional norm to do so, and it's really only been up and running for more than the 6 or 8 people when it was piloted year before last. This year was really the first full year of usage when 2.0 came on board. So I hear you, and we're pushing the providers to do that.
And our paid wellness staff, excuse me, our paid wellness staff have really gone above and beyond to support the community partners who are only on campus for, let's say, 2 hours running a group. And we've created paper sign-ins, and our wellness outreach specialist enters the data to make sure, because we were losing some data because the folks who come in for 2 hours and leave weren't capturing it. And so now we have a second backup, which is they handwrite it, and then we enter it for them to ensure numbers.
Okay, so that all makes sense, but I thought the group work was not included in the individual student visits, and that data is not accurate. So who's entering the individual student treatments?
The individual student treatment is entered by wellness staff, wellness providers, BACR, and some who are only on campus for short amounts of time, we enter it for them. They document on a piece of paper, and we enter it for them. I believe that the 688 includes students, unduplicated students who've been parts of groups. Isn't that true?
Not when it was separated out to the individual, because I specifically asked that question. You had data on individual treatments and individual minutes, and then you had a separate presentation on group.
Right. Well, that was just the number of groups, the number of actual groups, not the number of kids who receive group services. So that original number of students that received any services, the 688 services, that you're right, that was direct student services. Yeah. And in terms of the groups, we did not pull out, we pulled out the number of groups and the types of groups,
right,
not the number of kids who receive group services.
I just want to make sure that we don't have a catch-all where we say it's groups coming on campuses and they're not being paid, and so they're only on campus for a couple of hours, and so we have actually kind of reduced expectations for them entering data into the system. The individual information was not around group treatment. Maybe it's other groups coming on campus, but I guess I would encourage us to have a high bar because it directly ties to funding decisions.
I have it's a kind of a big picture question. Thank you. It was really interesting, and thank you for all the work over the years. But so many of these things have so many darn variables. I'm never sure how to interpret it. And one thing that came to mind, I have a lot of examples that I thought of when you were talking, but one came to mind is when we were looking at budget cuts, feedback I received from a couple community members. They didn't have children in the school. They said 600, because at that time we thought it was 600, but now it's a little bit higher. They said all this controversy over 600 kids, and you've got over 5,000 students. And so people were looking at it very strictly as that one metric rather than, I really liked what you shared, Jessica, about the baseline using BACR. I think it's just a good number to look at. And then the self-referring is a big win. But then I've always been struck by just the presence of wellness and all these group activities and all the education, how many students are seeking help elsewhere because of this? How many students are we saving because maybe they don't want to go to wellness here and they're not part of that 600, but they're sure getting help or they're comfortable going to their parents? And that's something how do you measure that? And how do you really, so much of this is we just have to know there's a need, and probably from your expertise know how students of this age group, how you reach them. But I don't know, how do we really evaluate it, I think, is my question. It's so qualitative in many ways, and it's, one thing to follow up with what Cynthia was saying, I'm wondering too, because I used to hear this from nurses when things started to get computerized, they'd say, I'm not going to do it, because they're just not used to doing it, and they're used to it. I'm going to see the next patient. I'm not going to do my paperwork. I'm going to go, rather than, nope, that patient's going to have to wait a little bit longer. And I'm wondering if you think there's any of that, or are the people that are working, are they so busy with students knocking on the door that they say, I'm going to put the paperwork aside right now and meet with that next student that's knocking? Is there an element of that?
Absolutely. There's so many crises every week.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're with one student for 8 hours, getting 5150'd or whatever. And so those are very important to document. But I think sometimes, like even in our interview questions, we give an example of 6 students walking into the wellness center, and each one of them has needs. And how do you prioritize? And then not only do they have to prioritize and meet the needs of kids, they have to record it, right?
Right.
If they miss one person of those 6 people walking in, then our data is not correct. So the solution I have is keep it on a piece of paper, a private piece of paper on your desk, so that you're never going to forget a student. Because a lot of time, computers aren't on, especially for clinicians or therapists. They're not on their computer. They don't have time to do that. So what are other ways that they can make sure that they get that data? The other thing I was going to say is so many of our students have private therapists. I would be curious about the numbers, but I can tell you that a good percentage of students who come in who are not counted, we find out that they have a private therapist, and we figure out how we can support them while they continue to see their private therapist.
Right.
So I think a lot of students are also getting support outside of wellness. Sometimes we connect them to the therapist, but I do think a lot of students are seeking support. And then finally, our suicide prevention work, when we give our resources, it's not, wellness is one of the many resources for kids. So we hope that students will go to we send students all the time to their pediatrician, to therapists in the community, to nonprofits, to the crisis text line, to the suicide prevention text line. So we're giving them resources, because the truth is wellness closes when school closes.
Yeah.
And they need resources, especially right now as the school year's ending. We have a summer transition plan for every student that's exiting, because they have their therapist at school, and we want to make sure that they have support throughout the summer, and even if they're graduating.
Do you track their presenting issue versus what seems to rise to the surface of being the real issue?
Yeah, we actually had 2
I don't want to say real, like the other one's not
yeah.
real, but how many, you probably know.
We had 2 different
Okay.
pie charts that had the presenting issue and then the everything else. And I actually looked at them side to side, and there was very little difference. It was like maybe a percentage here and there, but those are the top issues that students are coming in with.
So we read about drug usage in the Healthy Kids Survey, but it was a really small percentage here. So why do you think that is?
Right.
Well, that's what I'm trying to understand. Why is it? Is that so kids that have that challenge, they're not inclined to come to the wellness center?
We have Huckleberry on campus at each of our
Okay.
campuses for a day a week, and their caseloads are full. But
Okay.
that's just one day a week, so we're talking,
Yes, I'm just
between
wondering.
8 to 16 clients.
Mhm.
And of those kids, some of them are referred to us because they've been caught on campus, so they're required. And then we do have a handful of students that come and say, like, especially with vaping right now, I think I'm addicted, I need help. But a lot of times, students will come to our providers with anxiety, and then we find out they're using
Okay,
substances.
okay, that makes sense then.
But they often
Okay.
are nervous to come up.
Yeah, yeah, it's
And
not
they're
something you
also afraid
wanna-
of getting in trouble.
Yeah,
Even though we
yeah.
tell them we're not going to get them in trouble, a lot of kids are too afraid to ask questions about drugs and alcohol to start.
And that's what I was, well, that'd be interesting.
I also think we need to be careful and not conflate that students reporting usage doesn't necessarily mean they think they have a problem or that they do have
Right,
a problem.
right.
So it's
And that's
what
with
they're,
a lot of
what they're
this stuff,
reporting
yeah.
in
Yeah.
Healthy Kids is usage.
That's so true.
Okay.
I just want to say one other thing to your point about, like, how do we evaluate the outcomes, or how do we evaluate if this is working and it is necessary? And I think one thing that's helpful to think about is that the developmental period, right, of teenagers, like, this is where they're learning to take care of themselves emotionally, behaviorally, like with substances, like they're learning all of these things, and having this support allows them to have a resource that is going to give them information that's different than their peers, and their peers are being educated to give them necessary information as well. So it's not necessary, like the prevention aspect of this kind of work is really important to think
And I think
about. And
that's
it's harder
what-
to capture the prevention
Right.
piece than the outcomes piece.
And I think that's where I'm going, is some of this we're not going to have any numbers for.
Well, and I think going forward, we have to determine what parameters we want to look at when we
Yeah,
get
that's
this
what's
data,
hard.
right? So,
That's what's
and,
hard.
and again, I'm going to say, if we've signed up to use a platform, which is what WISH is, we should have accurate data in there, even though it's not going to be able to measure everything. But
Yes.
Just to say one thing, just like that, the data sparked for me, just knowing, like, I've seen a shift, like, I know that you can't really quantify this, but there's been a shift. I'm a junior this year, and, like, the Wellness Center opened the middle of my sophomore year, so I guess I've been there and even split half the time the Wellness Center, half not, and there has been a total cultural shift that, like, it's not like kids, like, you can go to the Wellness Center and everyone's not going to call you out for it, that I know you can't quantitative that, but, like, I know TAM's the newest one, that it has been, like, not only, like, the data with kids sending other kids there, like, that's become a okay and acceptable thing to do, which, like, it wasn't my freshman year, so.
No, that's exciting. Yeah, stigma, reducing stigma and helping people feel okay about asking for help is a big thing. And there are qualitative ways that data can be collected, asking people, hearing people's stories, that kind of thing. And there's also quantitative things like, how has the school climate changed after having these kind of services available? And I mean, we've done in other places interviews and focus groups with students and teachers say often that now they didn't know what to do with certain students, that they didn't know how to help them, and by having a place for them to go, it allows them to do their jobs instead of trying to figure out, how do I help this student that has all these needs? Instead, you have professionals who can do that.
Any other comments, questions? This is not an action item, it's an update. Any public comment? Well, thank you very much, very interesting. Thank you. All right, so I think our next item, we're back to the item that we took off the consent agenda, which is to approve the personnel summary. So Lars,
Yes,
we'll
thank you.
ask you.
Again, I request that the governing board please approve the personnel summary with the exception of the .875 paraeducator position for Temescal High School. I'd like you to please remove that.
Is there a motion?
so moved as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. Breakthrough Week.
Student trustee report.
The student trustee report.
Yes.
Yeah, so you have a lot of.
Okay, so the reason that I kind of stayed is that we had a really big week at TAM last week. We had prom, breakthrough day, and a TAM unity day, and we have rally on Friday. So we are not slowing down. sadly, or happily, I don't know. APs are over, so school is more or less done for me, but leadership is not done. So the big thing last week, we had breakthrough day, or breakthrough week, but it was more or less the day. It was on Wednesday, which was actually the same day. I forget the day, it was the 23rd, I want to say, which was the same day that we did it 2 years ago. So it was technically the 52nd anniversary of the original one. It was all student run this year, so our students, our SOAR program took the initiative on along with the Students of Color and Black Student Union to try and get this going. We tried for February, but because of scheduling and stuff, we ended up pulling it off in May. It was super exciting. Every grade had a different activity that they did. The freshmen did a discussion with their link leaders. It was so we had an alternative schedule. 10 minutes were taken from every class and added to tutorial. So we had an hour and a half long period for the activities. So freshmen did half the tutorial with their link leaders talking about the presentation that SOAR made for them. So because SOAR is only about 20 students, they pulled on leadership and link crew to try and get kids in every class, because the feedback that we had gotten from 2 years ago was that it was really hard to have these conversations when you had a teacher teaching it, that they'd rather hear it from students. So I'm a link leader, so I led this presentation with my freshmen. We did, half the class was about this. Mine talked about, the presentation that we gave talked about, God, what's the word for it? Like racism and like the media and like whitewashing, in kind of ways that you can see this because within the media, and then kind of being like, so think about this, you know, at TAM and how you might see it. We also talked about cultural appropriation and things like that within media and movies and TV shows, especially on social media, because we did have an incident with cultural appropriation in the fall at one of our rallies. And then the second half of that, they had an advisory where freshmen reflected on their year and connected ideas back to orientation, which was not a part of Breakthrough Day, but just happened to be on the same day. Sophomores watched a film and then had a discussion. All of the I'm forgetting the name of the film right now. I am not a racist. Okay, it was that one. Okay, I didn't want to say the wrong one. So all of the students who ran that were SOAR students. For the sophomores, they were grouped into groups of like 60 students, I want to say, and all the students that ran that had been through the training. So that was like kind of the most intense was with the sophomores. And then juniors had a similar discussion to the freshmen, but it was a little bit longer, and they had more time to talk after. It wasn't them just getting information spat at. And leadership teamed up with SOAR to do the juniors, so a lot of leadership kids were trained by SOAR members on how to have these conversations. And then seniors didn't have anything. I thought that was weird, but I did not make the call. So I think they watched. I recommend, if you haven't seen it, a student made a really cool 2-minute video about Breakthrough Day at TAM. It was really cool, really well done.
Seniors did the senior survey.
Oh, they did the senior survey. Okay, that's what it was, yeah. But I heard kids saying that it only took 10 minutes, and they were very confused. Kids were confused on why they didn't have anything. We were talking in TAM News today about how that was really weird. So that's kind of something that to improve on and find a way to make sure every grade is involved. But yeah, it seemed very successful. There were definitely some critiques, as there always will be. But from where I was as a leadership kid, I did not help plan this, but it seemed successful. Kids were more or less responsive to it. I think we have feedback to go on and try and make this not an every other year thing, but to try and make this happen again next year. So our students want it to be a full day. We'll see how that works, but kind of attack it earlier on in the year to get more resources. We also had prom on Saturday. That was a big success. From what I saw, we didn't hear anything like big blow up. The biggest thing was that like the way that ours at the Bentley Reserve where Redwoods was, and there's like a really small entrance, and everyone packed into there, and they're like, it's fire code if we can't let you guys all out, so we had to like all back up, and they let everyone out because everyone like lined up to leave right at 11. So you weren't allowed to leave until 11, and everyone left at the same time. So everyone was stuck there for 2 hours, which everyone like wasn't happy about, but I was like, it's fine, like enjoy yourself. I don't know. Everyone, it seemed good. There was no anything else, no bad things. There was almost a provocative dancer, but they canceled that. So. And then on Friday, our event planner like said that they got
I'm so glad they stopped it.
No, our event planner was like, oh, because of the package, like our theme was The Great Gatsby, so like the event planner was like, we had this like giant like martini glass, and they were gonna have a flapper dancer in there.
That's like the day of bimbos with the.
And then the leadership teachers found out about this like 2 days before, and they're like, we cannot have that. And then he kept pushing it, so we finally were able to get the dancer to not come, which was a relief on leadership's part.
Oh, I'm so glad you
So
got
that's
that.
a fun story about our prom. We also had TAM Unity Day on Friday, so we had an on Friday we also had a TAM Unity Day, which was connected to Breakthrough Day. We tried SOAR, planned lots of activities during lunch, kind of about awareness or like what does breakthrough mean to you and things like that. And then all of our food trucks SOAR got, so we had like the biggest hit was like a Moroccan truck. I wasn't there that day, I was homesick, but like everyone seemed to love the food. We tried to go for like more cultural food. SOAR picked out all the food trucks. That seemed to be super successful. We also had our Draw the Line pledge during tutorial on Friday, where students were able to go to the back parking lot, our student lot, and make a pledge to never drink and drive. That was a thing that was started a couple years ago by students, and it's always received really well. Everyone gets a lanyard that says Draw the Line to try and promote that on campus. So yeah, that was TAM's big week.
Yeah, busy week. Yeah, thank you for staying.
I've never known about the provocative dance.
Yeah.
There's a fun story.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I went to the, it was a link crew. It was the last day when they were working with the advisory. So that I went to that.
So yeah, we had our
That was
closing
good.
advisory. So like
Yeah.
it was at the beginning of like orientation, one of the main leaders says like a thing with a $1 bill, you can save it or not leave it. So
Right.
we kind of concluded a lot of ideas that were brought up at orientation. And then we have every freshman write on a whiteboard a goal that they want to achieve by the time they graduate, and we make them put on a cap and gown and we take a photo of them.
Yeah,
so
that
it's kind
was
of fun
really
right now.
nice.
If you, by any chance, some of you guys walk through TAM before school ends, up by the library, there's a photo of a lot of the seniors from when their goals that they made. So that was kind of
Yeah,
cute. So we'll put
it
the
is
photos
neat.
back up their senior year, and you can see if you got your goal or not. So all of mine were cute. They're like, oh, I want to make varsity baseball. I want to become an editor for the TAM News. I want to get straight A's. I want to get into college. Like, it was good goal setting, and it seemed positive.
Good.
So good vibes coming out of TAM this week.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you very much. Thank you for staying. It is always nice to hear things like that. Thank you. And feel free to leave now, because I know it still is a busy time of year. You don't have to wait and listen to us talk to each other about our week. Oh, you're funny. Okay, so now we'll go to the superintendent's report.
Okay, so I wanted to address some of the things that we've been facing in the district lately. And I kind of struggled with this because it's such a positive night tonight, where we're celebrating so many things, but I think it's important to also address some other things. So over the past few weeks, our community has been confronted by hateful comments made on social media sites. While these comments fall within the bounds of the law under our First Amendment right of freedom of expression, the content of the comments challenges our shared community values of inclusivity, a value that rejects racist, bigoted, and hurtful comments and actions against any person or group. So I was left wondering, how can we ensure that all of our students and staff feel represented and welcomed in our learning community? How do we allow for freedom of expression while upholding our values of being actively anti-racist and creating campus climates and cultures that value all people? I believe the Anti-Defamation League states it best. The answer to hate speech isn't censorship, it's more speech. So the challenge before us, then, is to amplify voices and messages of acceptance, belonging, and care. I believe this is a challenge because hate is easy. It absolves us of the responsibility to engage in honest self-reflection. It provides us safety in our ideological rightness. And worst of all, it allows us to reject learning of the other religion, the other culture, the other viewpoint, the other perspective. And when we reject learning, we close ourselves off from understanding. Hate is easy. It requires no vulnerability and it requires no contemplation. Love, acceptance, and understanding, on the other hand, are hard. These things require us to open ourselves up to new ideas, which in turn forces us to take a personal inventory of our values and to be honest with ourselves about how we embody those values. Love, acceptance, and understanding require that we continuously learn and grow as people. They require that we relinquish a sense of rightness, of there being just one way of being or thinking. My vision for our school district is that we provide our students with the tools to embrace love, acceptance, and understanding, that we foster curiosity for learning about the other and a consistent desire to seek understanding. My vision is that our students put love out into the world that they inhabit and reject hate and its easiness and security, that we encourage all students to exercise their agency and speak up for their beliefs while providing space for others to do the same in a civil and thoughtful manner. So those are some of my thoughts, and it's been an interesting few weeks because I was able to also attend most of TAM's Breakthrough Day. And so I was able to see that I think that our district does embrace love, understanding, and acceptance. When I look around at the majority of the behaviors and actions that our kids are engaging in, I'm really proud. And so I want us to be able to focus on those things and not get blinded by one or two voices. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Tara. Well said.
Killed the mood.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think that's
actually helpful.
That's very important, what you said, and I'm a firm believer in the First Amendment. Have to be going to law school, but and not only that idea of taking agency and speaking up and challenging one another. It's not only important for high school, it's incredibly important for college. There was a great article in the Wall Street Journal this past weekend from the president of Bard College talking about how that's absolutely the center of liberal arts, is to come and have your thinking challenged. And he said it's a crime if you believe something 20 years, the same thing that you believed 20 years ago today, right? If you haven't made any modifications to it, if you haven't challenged yourself, allowed your ideas to be challenged. So it's a challenging time, and I think you've, in cooperation with principals, their admin done a good job, kind of navigating a difficult topic. So, good job.
So I'll open it up to any trustees wish to share anything about any activities or anything you've done the last 2 weeks that's worth sharing with board members. I did go to the Marin County Office of Education presentation on the fair voting, can't remember what it's called now, the Voting Act. And actually, I did get some clarification, and I might even write it up in some bullets and just do a one-way communication. But I did get some clarification of different ways that sometimes the evaluation is made, whether a protective class is being oppressed through voting, and it was more involved than I had realized, of actually analyzing precincts and their voting patterns over several years, and it was specific to candidates, and if they saw that certain demographics voted a certain way, even if they were not organized and wanted a certain candidate, that needed to be taken into consideration, and that was used in some of these cases. But still, in our case, with the percentage that we're looking at in our huge geographical area, it wouldn't be something that's applicable from what we could see. So, but I'll put something together, a little bullet. So that's all I have. But also, thank you, Tara. I too appreciate. I've learned a lot from you over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and appreciated the conversations. And I really do like what you read. I would love to have a copy of that if I'd like to read it. So thank you. Thank you for your leadership. It's been really important, and we've all relied on you the last. And thank you. I know everyone here, all the administration and the principals and assistant principals, and really appreciate it. So thank you. And I think we're at the end of the agenda. So I think, do we have any public comment on any items not on the agenda? No public comment, and it's 8 o'clock, so I think what we'll do is, Kevin, would you like to make any comments on the evaluation of Oh, you did? See, I tell you, it's like I got so tired all of a sudden. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, that's right. Your mic wasn't working. See that I'm getting nailed again for.
So say that we worked collaboratively and strive for consensus, and that was the positive. Say the negative side. Actually, I regret reading through it so quickly at the start, given how important the norms are actually in terms of functioning. Shouldn't have done so, and so won't do that again.
No, you can do that. No, I thought it. No, it's good because we all know the norms really well, and it's just helpful to focus on it. So.
Right, if you sprint through it, it sends the wrong message.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, it also, it also sends the wrong message when one of the board members starts talking to the superintendent about clarifying the agenda when the person's reading the norms. I think I trumped your. I know. Sorry. Right when I said it, I thought I better look. Anyway. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Meeting adjourned.